Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another instalment in the Sydney Railroad build. If you've been watching the last few instalments, you'll have seen me get the paper mill trackage completed. We're still waiting for the concrete tie track from Micro Engineering. They are still having trouble with their mould. So rather than just waste time waiting for it, I decided to take a different tack and complete the last section of benchwork over the walkway. So without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and build that benchwork section. Well, I have now got about as far as I can with the harbour and the paper mill areas. I spoke to Micro Engineering today and there's still no promise of any concrete tie track available anytime soon. So I sent the client an email suggesting that we just go with wood ties and the prototypical rationale for doing that. While I'm waiting to hear back from him, the only area of the railroad I can really sensibly work on is to close this gap in the benchwork. It's about a 7-foot long gap. Well, actually I think it's a little bit less than 7 feet. I already have all the cross joists cut. I'm just going to make the two longitudinals, and then I'm going to have to pretty much assemble this entirely in situ just to make sure that it's a perfect fit. So let me just go away, get organized, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, I started by clamping the two end panels to the sections that were already built. Then once I was happy with the position, I bolted them permanently in place, and then I glued the stringers on front and back. Note the masking tape in all 4 corners. That is so that any glue squeeze out doesn't have the risk of gluing the frames together. That's that end. That's the other end done. Now it's just the same as all the other frames. I get a couple in the middle in the right places, and then I'll put in the 2 that run parallel with the cantilever brackets. But before I do that, I need to go inside, check my drawing, just to make sure I don't go putting joists where there is going to be a bunch of switch machines. So let me go inside, figure that out, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, that is the 4 conventional joists in, 3 over my walkway and 1 towards this end. Now I've just got to get the 2 special ones done that go beside the brackets, 1 there and 1 there. First thing I've got to do is cut some off the back so that it misses that leg, and then splice a piece along beside it. So let me just get back to doing that, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, there are those 2 special joints in. So apart from the curve, that area is now fully framed. I've also removed the temporary leg that was supporting this corner, because that is no longer required. I didn't get out here until pretty late this afternoon, and it's now time to go in and feed Zeus. But I got as far as I wanted to. And I've also heard back from the client today. He has decided that rather than wait for Micro Engineering to maybe fix their concrete tie mould, we are going to go with wood ties on the main line. So if I'd known a few hours earlier, I could of course have avoided having to duck under until the end of time. But it's okay, there's quite a good clearance on there. I think it's 50 inches, so it's not a major issue ducking under there. My first task this morning is to get the subroadbed for the 2-track short line staging yard extended through this new frame and through the short one that I built some time ago. I've already cut this first piece this morning. I've got another strip that's long enough and the right width to go in here. I just got to trim that to length, get that in, and then I'll get them both screwed in place and put the safety fences on. So let me go away, do that, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, that is the subroadbed installed through both those benchwork frames. I've also screwed it down. I have not yet permanently attached the side rails. I'm going to leave those removable until after I've laid the track. And I think I'm going to do that next. I want to make sure that everything in there is finished and tested before I forget about it and cover it up, making it more difficult to access. So let me sweep off the sawdust, get the track laying stuff out and continue. Well, that is one track all the way to the end. It's nowhere near lunchtime yet, but I need to let that glue set so I can get rid of the weights because they are in the way of the straight edge for the other track. So I'm just going to go inside, do something else for a couple of hours, and I'm going to come back out and continue this afternoon. I'll see you then. Well, that is the second track installed all the way along. I don't have any feeders in yet. I'm going to get the wiring done before I put the fences on because it's a lot easier to access it then. At the moment the bus wires stop here, so I've got to extend those. So let me get the wiring tools out, get on with all that, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, those two tracks are now wired up and tested, whole length. I've run the locomotive to the end and back on both sides, made sure the isolating switches still work. So that wiring is now done. Next thing I'm going to do is get the side rails installed. I'll do that quickly and I'll be right back. Well, that is the fences attached all the way along, not just for the new section but for the approaches at the other end. Rather than drag the air compressor and the stapler and the air hose down here, I just clamped it instead. I figured it would be easier along here where everything's parallel and there's plenty of room for the clamps. There's two places I could go next. Either I could work on this curved corner, the support for the fascia, or I can continue with the mainline grade up the back. Actually, I don't think I want to do either just at the moment because all those clamps under there make the duct under clearance significantly lower than it is normally. I've already bumped myself a couple of times. It's about 20 to 5. I don't think I really feel like starting anything else. I'm going to go in. I know it's been a really short day, but I've got plenty to work on inside. I'll come back out again tomorrow and I'll see you then. My current task is to get this corner framed in with the 3-foot radius curve that will support the fascia. I did the lower former this morning before I went out and had lunch with the missionaries. I've just got back. These clamps can now be taken off, and then I've just got to see about making another one above it. Shouldn't take very long, so let me get on with that and I'll talk to you again later. Well, there is the upper former installed. Last thing I did was to cut the end of the framing off. This piece here, if you recall from before, it ran about 3 inches long, just to give me some leeway, some tolerance. Now trim that off with the oscillating saw. So that corner is now done. Next, I'm thinking of moving over to the back of the benchwork and continuing the ramp for the main line up behind the ethanol plant. So let me get reorganized, start on that, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, the first thing I've done towards continuing this grade at the back is to mark where I've got to cut the top corner of these joists. Note they're getting slightly smaller, the cutouts are getting slightly smaller each time. It's because of the rising grade. They're not exactly where they need to be. The idea being that I'm making them all a little bit lower than I think they need to go. That way I can either put shims in or put risers beside them. Well, there is the next 7 feet of ramp up the back of that frame. The curve starts about here, so I've got to plot it accurately before I can cut any more subroadbed. I'm going to go in now and work that out. Not sure if I'm going to come back out again later because I didn't get started until late and there's not much time left today. Anyway, whatever I decide to do, I'll talk to you again later. First thing I've done this morning is position a piece of plywood where it needs to go for the subroadbed for the top of the grade. It's not attached yet, but it's just accurately positioned along the outside edges, and the inside is wherever it ends up. I've laid out the track plan for this small town, taped it down along the back, and I'm going to start shredding the track plan from the front. I'm actually not going to do the approaches to the ethanol plant. Instead, I'm just going to cut that away in one chunk and save it for later because I'm not ready to do the ethanol plant yet. But I do want to get this corner in so that I can connect up the subroadbed between the top of the grade that I did yesterday and this small town, most of which I did some time ago. Anyway, you're familiar with my procedure for transferring the track plan from the paper to the benchwork. So I'm just going to get on with it, and I will talk to you again later. Well, that is this corner marked out. I have removed the track print for the ethanol plant and moved that over out of the way for safekeeping. At this point, I can remove this plywood, get it cut to shape, save the inside piece for later, and get it properly installed. But I think while I've got the marking out tool set up, I may as well mark out all the track in the rest of this town. So I'm going to get on with that before coming back to this corner. Well, that is the whole of this switching area marked out and the track plan removed. Right, as far as here, I haven't bothered with the plain main line around to the end. I will do that another time when I'm ready to lay it. But this is a lot more than I plan on working on today. All I really want to do today is get this corner installed. And then I'm in a position where I can get the top of the grade in and work out exactly what height the ethanol plant needs to be. Right, I've now reached my target for today. I have got the subroadbed in continuously all the way at the top of the grade. It used to end here, and now it goes all the way down, connecting up to what I built a few days ago. As I mentioned earlier, I had no intentions of doing the ethanol plant today. I can at least figure out exactly what height to make it, and I think I was right to cut the 1/4 inch off the top of those joists. It means that the main line dropping down to the harbour can lose about 1/2 inch in the first few feet, making it obviously the lower track. I didn't want them to stay at the same level. Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the presentation, found it useful or interesting, or both. With that section framed in, that is all the benchwork completed on this project, except for miscellaneous bits and pieces like the upper level backdrops and all the fascia. So I guess that is a bit of a milestone. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be presenting next week, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun, and I hope to see you back here for that. So in the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.